Okay, you're good.
Great. Thank you, Colton. Hello, I am Juliana Reshik, and I serve as the Continuing Nurse Education and IV Therapy Committee, as the chair of the Continuing Nurse Education and IV Therapy Committee of the Kansas State Board of Nursing. I ask the members of the Continuing Nurse Education and IV Therapy Committee to respond to a roll call signifying their presence at the open meeting via conference call. Lori Owen.
Present.
Andrea Watson.
Madam Chair, this is Chelsea. She is absent with notice.
That's correct. She sent me an email. Thank you very much, Chelsea. Giovanni Gunne.
Present.
Melanie Burnett.
Present.
Karen Oftenberg.
Present.
And Teresa Sanderson.
Present.
Thank you, Teresa.
Yes.
I ask the following board staff members to signify their attendance. Carol Moreland, Executive Administrator.
Present.
Chelsea Stevenson, Education Specialist.
Present.
Michelle Brown, Senior Administrative Assistant.
Present.
Public comment allows individuals to address the Continuing Nurse Education and IV Therapy Committee about their concerns, but the Kansas Open Meetings Act, which is known as COMA, does not require the Continuing Nurse Education and IV Therapy Committee to provide public comment or answer questions from individuals. Public comment will not be taken today because there is the possibility that the connection for this remote meeting may be lost over time, and the time for the meeting may not allow everyone who is present to comment. Additionally, we will not know what comments an individual may make, and we would want to provide notice to the public of our intent to discuss a particular matter so that the public may listen and observe our discussion. Because we are conducting this meeting remotely by Zoom and YouTube, I state for the record the following information. On March 14th, 2022, the board sent notice of the meeting for the Continuing Nurse Education and IV Therapy Committee to all individuals who have requested notice of the committee's meetings. Additionally, the notice and agenda were posted on the board's website, ksbn.kansas.gov. You may obtain a copy of the notice and agenda at the website or by sending an email to carol.moreland@ks.gov with the subject line, request for agenda, and the board staff will send it to you. The notice contains the internet links to access the meeting by Zoom and YouTube. The notice also contains the Zoom telephone number to attend the meeting by telephone call. All of these electronic mediums allow the public to attend this meeting free of charge. The notice also advises individuals to contact the board's office at 785-296-2967 if they experience any technical issues during the meeting. The only mediums for interactive communication offered for this meeting are the connections by Zoom and YouTube as previously stated. Each member of the committee, board staff, or presenter shall state the person's name and title each time the person speaks or votes, as the case may be. Each participant to this meeting shall ensure microphones, phones, or other electronic devices are on mute when the participant is not speaking. Each motion will be clearly stated before the committee votes, and the chair will announce the results of the final vote. A statement or motion will clearly identify and authorize by delegation each member of the committee or staff who will be permitted to sign any documents on behalf of the committee. A recording of the meeting will be posted on the board's website. The committee has the following items listed on its agenda: call to order, review of on-site packet, additions or revisions to agenda, announcements, approval of minutes for the meeting held in December of 2021, unfinished business, new business, agenda for the committee meeting in June of 2022, and adjournment. Although the items listed in the agenda do not include an executive session, however, if the committee elects to exercise the option to go into executive session, the committee will allow this process. First, the committee must be in an open session before going into executive session. Then a motion will be made and seconded pursuant to KSA 75-4319B. The motion must contain the statement of justification for closure, the subjects to be discussed, and the time and place that the open meeting will resume. If a motion for executive session passes, public will be excluded from this portion of the meeting, as the executive session will be conducted by electronic means that will not be made available to the public. The committee members will return to the open meeting after the executive session. The open meeting will resume when the committee members return to the Zoom, and the YouTube meeting after the executive session. The complete motion for an executive session will be recorded in the minutes. The meeting is now called to order, and the committee will now consider the next item on the agenda, which I believe is review of our on-site packet. And I think we had one.
Correct, we did. It was just the renewal application from Wesley Medical Center. And that is all that the on-site consists of.
Perfect. So we'll review that piece when we get to that in our agenda, if that's okay.
Yes, and Madam Chair, there is a motion to accept the on-site packet as is.
Okay.
Is there a committee member that would like to make the following motion? I move to accept the on-site packet as is.
This is Giovanni Bonet, board member, and I so move.
Thank you, Giovanni. Is there a second?
This is Teresa Sanderson, board member, and I second.
Thank you, Teresa. All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any discussion? Oh, I should have asked that for the yes before yeses, sorry. Anyone who does not support, please signify by saying no. Motion carries. So we'll move on to any additions or revisions to the agenda.
Madam Chair, this is Chelsea Stevenson, staff member. There is one change we need to make to the agenda. It is just a typo error under new business number 6, the 5-year legislative review. Those are listed as KSA 60-12-104 and KSA 60-12-105. Those should instead read KAR for both of those. So we do have a motion for that change on the agenda, but other than that, there's no other corrections that I'm aware of that need made.
We'll entertain the motion. Michelle, if you would like to read it for us.
Is there a committee member that would like to make the following motion? I move to amend the agenda to change KSA 60-12-104 to KAR 60-12-104 and KSA 60-12-105 to KAR 60-12-105.
Perfect. Does anyone like to make that motion?
This is Lori Owen, board member. I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Lori. Is there a second?
This is Karen Offenberg, committee member, and I second.
Thank you, Karen. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying yes.
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 And any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, announcements. Any announcements, Chelsea? Carol?
No, I do not have anything.
Okay. So we'll move on to approval of our minutes from December.
Are you ready for the motion?
You can certainly read it, Michelle, and then if when somebody's ready, we can.
Is there a committee member that would like to make the following motion? I move to approve the December 14th, 2021 Cne and IV Therapy Committee minutes as written.
Giovanni Cne, I go ahead and make that motion.
Thank you, Giovanni. Is
This
there a
is
second?
Lori Owen, board member. I'll second.
Thank you, Lori. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All opposed signify by saying no. Motion carries. Okay, unfinished business. Let me get back to that. So our IV therapy task force update.
Yeah, Madam Chair, this is Chelsea Stevenson. The IV Therapy Task Force, we met virtually on February 10th. We did have a couple of new members join us, just with committee members no longer being on the committee. So we did have a couple of changes on the task force. The members of this task force are currently in the process of reviewing the current pool of IV therapy test questions, just to offer their suggestions and then comments that they have about the questions that we currently have in that test pool. It still remains the consensus of the task force that the current pool of test questions are outdated and or do not apply to an LPN scope of practice. And so I have heard back comments and suggestions from a couple of task force members, and I'm still waiting to hear back from a few more. But what the task force would like to request today is the committee's approval to start working on creating a new pool of IV therapy test questions. This pool would also contain 100 questions total. And it's the task force goal to have a pool of 100 IV therapy test questions completed by the end of 2022. This would just allow for the summer. A lot of the task force members work either clinically or in the schools. And so it would allow for those graduations and hiring periods to kind of pass and give us some time to really look through each content area of the IV therapy pool questions and really evaluate what can stay and then come up with a new pool of those questions. So while we haven't began to discuss specifically what questions they would add or remove, we kind of begin moving forward with that in the next month or so. And again, just with the goal of having 100 questions prepared to share with the committee at the end of the year.
Melanie, I think you might be on mute.
So a question I have is, are they changing the questions to match like the NCLEX type questions with the next gen?
We haven't specifically talked about what questions we may add to the pool. We've more been focused on what's not appropriate or what might not apply to the scope of practice. There's medication specific questions that wouldn't apply to an LPN scope, for example, but basic mathematical questions that should be on there aren't included. And so what the consensus of the task force is that we're testing just to test, but not necessarily asking questions that would benefit, quote, in the real world. And what's actually, are we teaching content just to test, or are we teaching content that they will actually use in the workforce? So that's kind of the conversations that we've had in the task force so far. We did do a brief survey that was discussed last time, I think, just to our IV therapy providers about which curriculum are they using when they're teaching. And we don't regulate that or require a specific curriculum. So everyone's just a little bit different. But everyone, as far as standalone IV therapy providers, use the same test pool of questions. So that's kind of where we're at this point.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah.
Any other questions or discussions? Chelsea, is there a motion to go along with this?
So we don't have a motion. I think what I would only need is just directive from the committee to go ahead and move forward. And then I can arrange ongoing meetings with the task force to kind of start tackling these a little bit at a time, and maybe bring some of what we've come up with so far into the June meetings. We just provide an update at that time.
I think that'd be really helpful. I think we'd like to maybe understand, how many questions are being changed and processes that you're going through to validate the questions that you'll be adding. So,
Sure, I can do that. Thank you.
any other comments from any other board members?
I would agree.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you.
Apologize, I'm jumping between screens here. How about an update on the Cne regulations?
Madam Chair, this is Carol Moreland, the Executive Administrator, and I will take this one. If you remember right, we did regulations to KAR 60-9-105, 60-9-106, and 60-9-107. And the good news is they're pretty well where they need to be. Okay, let's put it that way. They have made it all the way to the Attorney General's office. And in the review of the Attorney General's office, there was one issue. So basically 60-9-105 and 60-9-107 are fine the way they are. The problem exists in 60-9-106. You all put in there, acceptable Cne may include one of the following. Number one being an offering presented by an approved provider or national organization whose focus is patient safety and improving nursing practice, which makes sense, definitely. Okay. When the Attorney General's office looks at regulation changes, they always go back to the statute because that's what gives us the authority to do the regulations. So when they went back to our statute, which is 65-11-19, it says, the board shall accept offerings as approved continuing nursing education presented by colleges that are approved by the state or a national department of education, and providers approved by other state boards of nursing, the National League for Nursing, the National Federation of Licensed Practical Nurses, the American Nurses Credentialing Center, or other such national organizations as listed in rules and regulations adopted by the board. Okay, so that's the problem. We're going to have to list these in our regulations because our statute says we have to have a list of the ones that we will accept. So I went back in December, if you remember right, Chelsea brought a list of national nursing certification organizations wanting to put this on our website and to say that we would accept Cne from these. And when I say accept Cne, they would not have to submit an IOA then, right? So there was 25 on here. It is my recommendation that we do not list all 25 of these in regulation. I just wanted to throw this out there for the committee to accept. In going through the 25 on here, there's some that I think we probably will see much more than others. Some of them are very, very specialized that probably wouldn't see as much. And I would, Chelsea can jump in here whenever she wants to, but I would recommend that we keep the APRN ones, okay? Because APRNs are very specialized in the continuing nursing education they have to get. So that would be like the American Academy of Nurse Practitioners, American Association of Critical Care Nurses, American Midwifery Certification Board, National Board of Certification and Recertification for your nurse anesthetist, that's your CRNA, and then Pediatric Nursing Certification Board, because they offer, for advanced practice. And then perhaps other ones that could be picked up. It already has the American Nursing Credentialing Center in this list, but we perhaps could also pick up American Nurses Association, Emergency Nurses Association, and that might be everything that's in the list, because the other ones that are on here are like Addictions Nursing Certification Board, American Association of Legal Nurse Consultants, American Association of Neuroscience Nurses, American Board for Occupational Health Nurses. You kind of get it. They're very specialized, and I don't, we probably see too much coming from them, do we, Chelsea? Yeah.
No, everything that you mentioned are the ones that I see most frequently submitted.
Okay. So that was just an option that I wanted to throw out because I will have to revise this one regulation to put a list in there. And this would be.
Oh, Carol, I think you went on mute.
Sorry, I must hit my space bar. It would be 8 out of these 25 that would be listed then in rules and regs. And that should cover what the problem is. We just didn't have a list. We wanted to put this other list on our website, but that doesn't follow what our statute says. That makes sense to everybody? Do you have questions for me?
The only question I have, Carol, is, this is Juliana, is does that exclude someone? If we don't list them, then we wouldn't be able to honor?
Well, I believe that what they would have to do is submit an IOA. Is that correct, Chelsea? Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's probably gonna be approved if they submit everything they need to. It's just, it wouldn't automatically, but it would cover a lot of the advanced practice. It would cover American Nurses Association, Emergency Nurses Association, some of those.
And also, Carol, a lot of the more specific career-based or certification-based that you mentioned are approved by other state boards of nursing. And so if their certificate says, approved by the California State Board of Nursing for RNs, then they wouldn't need to submit an IOA to us per statute and regulation. That would be considered pre-approved as well. So that could be another way to kind of get that submitted without having to request formal approval.
That's helpful. So Carol, you would need a motion to make a change to that regulation.
Yeah, probably, since it's what I would consider a substantial change. So it has to come back to committee and then go to the board, and then I can make this change. I don't think it will be a big thing, but. And I don't know if Michelle has a motion about this, because I probably didn't say much to her.
I do not have a motion. Is there certain wording that we would need?
Possibly something like, I move that the revision of KAR 60-9-106, C1, C as in Carol, 1, would be revised to include 8 certification organizations as being approved for CNE or something, as approved for offering CNE or something like that. I don't know. What's everybody else think? We lost Chelsea.
I think that sounds good. CNE offering, yeah.
Okay. Did you get that, Michelle? Don't ask me to repeat it.
Well, I've got some of it. I didn't write fast enough, so we'll have to fill in the blanks. So just give me a minute here. Okay, so move that the revision or regulation revision?
Revision of 60-9-106, C as in Carol, and 1 would include 8 National Nursing Certification Organizations as being approved providers or something like that. Is that the word you said, Chelsea?
Yeah, approved providers.
Include 8 national
National Nursing Certification Organizations.
nursing certification. Approved as offering CNE providers.
Yes, approved. CNE providers.
Okay.
Okay, Michelle, will you read it one more time and then we'll see if we have a board member who's willing to make that motion.
Is there a committee member that would like to make the following motion? I move that the revision of 60-9106 C period 1 would include 8 national nursing certification organizations approved as offering CNE providers.
This is Teresa Sanderson, committee member. I so move.
Giovanni Cne, board member, I'll second that.
Thank you, Teresa and Giovanni. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed signify by saying no. Motion carries. Any updates or anything else you want to share on the CNE regulations, Carol?
Nope, I will make these changes after the board votes on this tomorrow and get them back through. I don't think it probably should take too long to get them back through. So
Okay.
hopefully they will get done soon.
Sounds great. Will you keep all 3 of them together through the process again, or will you go ahead with the 2 that have been approved and just resubmit the 1?
When I talked to the Attorney General's office, they asked me which I would prefer. I personally prefer that they stay together because it's a little bit easier for the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules and Regs over at the legislature to kind of understand when you keep the like ones together, because if you just take bits and pieces, they can't really see the full picture. And I do know that they have some interest in continuing nursing education. So it's my suggestion that we leave them all together.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you very much. Okay, how about an update on our delinquent providers?
Yeah, Madam Chair, this is Chelsea Stevenson. So let me pull up my notes here. I want to give you the right dates. So on February 10th of this year, we sent summary proceeding orders to the 6 long-term CNE providers who remain delinquent in submitting their annual reports and or annual fees. Those 6 were Atkins Physical Therapy and Ergonomics, Bailey Medical Services, Clay County Medical Center, Kansas Department of Health and Environment, Parsons State Hospital and Training Center, and Perinatal Resource. So those orders were sent on February 10th. To date, 2 of those have been returned in the mail as undeliverable. Those were Bailey Medical Services and Perinatal Resource. Of those 6 providers, none of them submitted a request for relief from this order. I believe they had 15 days to do so, and none of the providers did submit that request. So the approval status of those 6 long-term providers have officially been withdrawn.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions or anything for Chelsea? I will save mine till our next order of business, I think. Okay, so talking then about our initial applications, Kansas Department of Health and Environment is our first one. And this was on my list to review. had that pulled up and I let it close. Chelsea, I don't know if you have the list of,
I do. Let me get that pulled up real quick and I can certainly read that off.
but I think my question with regard to Kansas Department of Health and Environment is they were just one we gave notice to for delinquencies, and they had not paid their fee. And I think it's noted at the top that they've gone 3 years without paying their annual fee or submitting their annual report. 2019, 2019, 2020, and 2021. And now then they're submitting for an initial application. So does the
Madam Chair, this is Chelsea Stevenson. I had you and then also Karen as reviewing this application.
I had thought the same too. I don't think we could force them to do an annual report, but before we approve that, do we need to have them turn in, or were they not offering any programs?
That was my question in their submission, their sample certificates, I believe, were dated during years that they hadn't paid their fine. If I'm correct. 2021. October 15th of 2021, and then also October 25th of 2021. So I understand these are samples. The name on these sample certificates is noted as John Doe.
Madam Chair, this is Chelsea Stevenson. If I may just share a comment from Charles with the Attorney General's office. He did leave a comment in our chat section that says he believes that you can set conditions on new applicants and that he will check. I just wanted to make sure that that comment was brought forth.
Thank you very much. I hadn't seen that, so thank you. And thanks, Charles. So that condition potentially could be that it would be approved if those fees were paid? Or, I think to Karen's point, it appears that they were offering CNE during these times that they were delinquent. So we potentially could go back and ask for annual updates. I think it would be interesting to me to understand how they, the number of CNEs they offered during that time.
This is Carol Moreland, Executive Administrator. Chelsea, they didn't by chance have a single provider approval for these ones that they offered, did they?
I don't believe so. I believe that they've always
Okay.
just been a long-term provider.
Okay, I just thought of that because that might be one other thing, but
A good point.
Wouldn't the number be different though if it was a single provider?
It would begin with the letters SP versus LT.
That's what I thought.
good point. Thank you.
Yep.
So Charles may need to do some checking. About setting conditions. I don't know. I would be in favor of, at minimum, I think, requiring the past due fines. And then the piece of, the piece of information to me is I would like to see an annual report maybe from the last year, and then a list of any CNE offerings that were offered during their delinquencies. during the 3 years they were delinquent.
Madam Chair, this is Chelsea Stevenson. I just went back looking through some correspondence I've had with the current coordinator. They did send in September an email that said this individual was told that there were no CNE provider programs during 2019, 2020, and to this point in 2021. This was on September 7th. And they did send Word document versions, like a screenshot image almost of the annual report. And that annual report does reflect the data on that shows that there were no CNE offerings provided during those 3 years. So I wanted to bring that forth. There's also been correspondence on September 10th, 2021, where they relayed that the persons in charge of funds do not want to pay the $150 for past years. We have notified them that we would have to start over and pay a $200 fee for a new application. And that is what that department or those individuals wanted and chose to do instead. They did not want to go back and pay those delinquent fees. So I wanted to bring that information that there were no CNE offerings given during those delinquent years, but that the annual fees remain delinquent.
So then their sample certificates were, there was no CNE offered in October? You said you received an email in September.
That went into September 7th was the date that email was sent. So, and the email had just said to that date, there had not been. So I'm not sure if this was actually a course that they offered or if they just chose a random date for their sample.
Well, I appreciate the clarification and understanding the $200 versus the $150. I think I am concerned. I don't know if it's the dollar figure that I'm concerned about. It's the principle of staying current with the regulations and with our expectations of offering CNEs. So
I agree with you, Juliana. I agree. I mean, their providership going over it was very thorough, I thought. But yeah, with the last 3 years, it's good to know that they weren't offering programs during that time. And, you know, if anybody had turned in a certificate during that time and they weren't really renewed. And this is a new coordinator, so I assume they must have had a change and maybe the ball was dropped or they didn't have a coordinator for a while or.
There is a new coordinator that I've been speaking with since the fall. However, the correspondence prior to that new contact information is still listed on the certificates of completion. I'm not sure in what role or capacity that person serves, but that's where the correspondence had been sent regarding the delinquent pieces up until the new coordinator contact information was given.
Well, I certainly would, I'd love to hear from some other board members on some direction here. I think we could go a couple of different directions. I think, I guess if we really wanted to be strong about this, we could say it's the $150 back fees and then the $200 for the new application, because there was a lot of work on Chelsea's part to go through requesting it. And I think there were a couple times that they didn't respond. And then she went through several different letters of, to the point where did you have certified mail, I believe, Chelsea?
Yeah.
So there's some expense to our organization to try to track this down and push it. So I think we could, go back and ask for the 150 plus the 200. I could see just getting the 200. I think I'd love to hear from other board members.
This is Teresa Sanderson, committee member, and I think I would have the same concerns that they've already clearly not followed, some basic guidelines about the annual reporting and submitting those types of things. So in my opinion, at a minimum, I think they should take care of their back fees for those annual reports that were not submitted. Sometimes things, when they hit in the pocketbook, are a little more better heard, better enforced. So that may be helpful. But I just think that's a tough situation, especially, considering it is KDHE as well. It's a tough spot to be in for sure.
That's a good point, Teresa, because if it were, if it were a different organization, we would want to have the same response. And so I don't want to let this go simply because it is another state organization. So.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Madam Chair. Just very quickly, Carol, I just wanted to add a little bit to what Teresa mentioned. I do think, as she mentioned, it's very fair that we go ahead and have them pay for that back fee. I also think it shows we're keeping everybody accountable, and that they are respectful of the time and the effort that our staff, that our administrative staff are taking in doing this. So I think for those two reasons, I think we should go ahead and ask for that back fee.
Madam Chair, this is Carol Moreland. And Colton, would you be able to bring Charles over, Charles Mashirs? Can you possibly, he's on and he's kind of been sending me a few emails here. And so I thought perhaps if we could just bring him over as a panelist.
He should be on the way. There he is.
Okay, here he comes. Charles.
Hey.
All right, I put you on the spot here. I thought maybe if you could update them a few things, maybe.
Yes. In a lot of the statutes for a lot of the agencies, you can condition applications for new applicants. And there's a lot of situations where maybe someone passed a test but didn't do very well, or they submit other samples of their work, and other boards can give them their license, but then it's conditioned on them taking additional classes or paying additional fees. And I think in your case, you could condition their license on meeting the requirements they neglected to meet before. And I know in my private practice, I did a lot of corporate work, and some people would forget their annual registrations for their corporations. And the Secretary of State would require them to pay all of the fees for all of the years they missed registering their corporation to get reinstated. So okay. I think otherwise everyone would just play that game and not pay it for a while and reapply. So I think it's within your authority to condition their application on the payment of back fees that they owe.
Thank you, Charles. That's very helpful.
It might take me a few minutes to actually find the statute to confirm that. So I can try to do that while you're talking if you want me to.
Okay. So maybe while Charles is looking for that document, maybe we could move on to the next item, and then we would come back to this after he's able to locate the items that we need. Okay. Sorry, here I am thumbing around again on multiple thumbing through screens. We're moving on to new business. So we have our IOA statistical report.
Madam Chair, this is Chelsea Stevenson. This report, I believe, is included in the packet. It just gives a brief overview of the IOAs, the number that we have received. That number has steadily increased. In fact, almost doubled from December to February. And also, as you can tell from our packet, it's a record number of renewal and initial CNE provider applications this round. So we've had lots of those, both long-term and then single offerings that I review that do not come to the committee and board. We've had several of those coming in as well. So life is somewhat returning to normal, I think. And so there's a lot more CNE offerings being provided in person. So we've certainly seen that reflected in the numbers.
Very good. Well, I suppose that's good news on several different fronts. So thank you for that. Let's look at our review of our long-term CNE provider annual report data.
You know, Madam Chair, this is Chelsea Stevenson. I actually don't know that that was supposed to be on the agenda. I'm so sorry. I'm looking, thinking, we don't have any annual report data coming in. However, we are about to send out the notices for this year. So perhaps that's where we can go with that. Those will be sent out next week or next month, sorry, in April, to let them know that that data will be due at the end of July, along with that $50 annual fee.
That's a great update. We'll take it.
Sure thing.
All right. Looks like Washburn Institute of Technology is relinquishing their long-term providership. So that's information for us to have. And then moving on to our 5-year renewals. So we'll start with the American Academy of Family Physicians. I don't know if it's helpful to you. I made some notes that's on page 50. If you want to jump to that page within your book. And my other computer shut off, Chelsea, so I'm going to let you share with us who's reviewing it.
Sure. This was Lori and Teresa.
Great. So Lori and Teresa, any comments on the American Academy of Family Physicians?
I didn't have any comments.
I didn't either. This is Teresa Sanderson. I took a look at the packet and, it looked in order.
Perfect. Okay. Chelsea does a really good job of helping us review those. So great. Is there a motion, Michelle?
Yes. Is there a committee member that would like to make the following motion? I move to approve the long-term provider 5-year renewal application for American Academy of Family Physicians.
This is Lori Owen, board member. I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Lori.
Giovanni Gonay, I'll second.
Thank you, Giovanni. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed? No. Motion carries. Okay, so we'll move on to the Greater Cne Chapter ASPMN. I think it's on page 132.
And for this provider, it was you, Juliana, and then Andrea.
Perfect. And Andrea sent me an email. Did she send it to you as well, Chelsea? With her comments. I did not find anything, but I want to check Andrea's email. I don't believe she did either. Everything looked to be included with the exception of the instructor's education and experience for the iRest sample offering, was her comment. So I want to see what she meant by that. guess we just did not have a resume from her. I think it looks conclusive. I don't know if others have feelings about it. Her credentials are noted.
Yeah.
Chelsea, do you have any concerns with it?
No, I didn't see any concerns.
And looking through it, I thought everything was there.
Okay.
I didn't do a deep dive in that one, but I did glance through it all.
Thank you, Melanie.
Yeah.
I'd entertain a motion. Michelle, if you want to read our motion.
Is there a committee member that would like to make the following motion? I move to approve the long-term provider 5-year renewal application for Greater Kansas City Chapter of American Society for Pain Management.
I would move to accept it.
Thank you,
And this-
Melanie.
This is Karen. I'll second.
Thanks, Karen. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed signify by saying no. Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to Larnard. I believe that's page 169.
Reviewers were Lori and Giovanni.
I did went ahead and reviewed that package. The only thing that I found was that, again, the presenter went ahead and just added a very brief resume. It is there though, but there's not a lot of history or credentials listed in there. And then the other thing that I noticed that this package did not have was a copy of the brochure or the flyer for this class. Other than that, it looked really good.
Same.
Okay, are those things that we want to ask for, or are you comfortable approving it the way it is?
I am comfortable approving it the way it is. They did went ahead and listed, the title of the presentation and gave a little bit of a little bit of a summary regarding the training. So I think, it is well written, it is good. So I feel comfortable moving forward.
Great. All right. Thanks, Giovanni. Michelle, you want to read our motion?
Is there a committee member that would like to make the following motion? I move to approve the long-term provider 5-year renewal application for Larnard State Hospital.
This is Giovanni Cne, board member, and I make that motion.
Thank you, Giovanni.
This is Lori Owen, board member. I'll second.
Thank you, Lori. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed? No. Thank you. Motion carries. Leading Age of Kansas, page 188.
Reviewers were Andrea and Melanie.
Okay.
I can tell you on the first, I guess the flyer is what I want to call it. I couldn't think of that. They didn't put the little ditty that you're supposed to put with the provider number on it, unless I missed it. They had it on the second one, but not on the first one. And then the other thing, I wondered about their instructor credit statement that they had in their description. Because they shouldn't be given it every time, only the first time. So I wonder if they're giving it to the instructors every time.
Okay. So your first comment with regards to the provider number, is that on the certificate?
I didn't see the certificate either, actually, sorry.
This is Chelsea Stevenson. I believe the certificate for them is on page 196.
Yes.
Okay. So where were you saying that the provider number was absent from?
Well, anytime you print a flyer or hang up a flyer or anything, you're supposed to have your provider number on there. The little, the little statement, the little sentence that you're supposed to put on there. And it's not on this one. It is on the second one.
Okay.
That says you're an approved provider and this is your provider number.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not on that MDS 3.0. It is on the second one for the coding one.
So this was being one of Andrea's as well to review. She sent in her email, she did not find any concerns. Would this be something that we would approve maybe with a reminder to add that to the flyers?
Oh, yeah. I think that's just something that they definitely would need a reminder about.
Michelle, can you read a motion with a reminder in it?
So we need to add the LT provider number to the brochure.
Yeah, Michelle, this is Chelsea. I would add just at the end of your motion to approve the renewal application, pending an updated brochure to include language for MDS 3.0 on being an approved provider.
Updated brochure NDS.
MDS 3.0. to include language on being an approved provider.
And number of CEUs maybe? Because it doesn't state that either.
With number of CEUs or contact hours?
CNE contact hours.
Okay, I'm gonna read it one time before we do the motion, okay? To approve the long-term provider 5-year renewal application for Leading Age Kansas, pending updated brochure MDS 3.0 to include language on being an approved provider with number of CNE contact hours.
Is there a board member that would
Okay.
like to make that motion?
This is Karen. I so move.
Thank you, Karen.
And I'll second. This is Melanie, committee member, and I'll second.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed? No. Motion carries. Okay, Southwest Medical Center, I think it's page 257.
This is Giovanni and Karen.
Great, thanks.
Yes, I went ahead and reviewed this package. Everything looked really, really good. One of the forms that is missing is a post-evaluation sample or copy. There was none in the package.
I agree on the 2 programs they submitted. I didn't see a bib on either one either, or an eval, and I didn't see an offering agenda on the first program, the rhythm recognition.
Yes.
And then I also noticed, I thought a few things were missing from policy and procedures. Did you pick up on that? Like on their policy for announcements, they didn't have in there his statement again that was missing earlier. I didn't see that included, and I didn't see a policy on like the instructor's education and experience. And then on their record keeping, they didn't include a list of what needs to be included in those files.
Yes, I agree, Karen.
So to me, there was just a couple of things missing, and if Giovanni agrees.
And we did get a copy of the human trafficking CNE course, but not on the first one.
Karen, this is Chelsea. What did you say? I have that from policy, they were missing information under record keeping, and then also what is required of their instructors. But what did you say first about the language under which part?
On their advertisement, they didn't have included in there that statement needs to be.
Okay.
So Karen, Giovanni, is this something you would be comfortable supporting if we had the additional documentation?
Yes.
I agree too. I just think they maybe need to resubmit some of those policies that have what's required included.
Okay.
Michelle, this is Chelsea. For that motion, I would recommend just adding to what you have pending updated policies and procedures, comma, a sample evaluation, comma, offering agenda and bibliographies.
Okay, updated.
Policies and
Update policy and procedures, comma,
a
No.
sample evaluation,
sample evaluation.
offering agenda and bibliographies.
Check. Are we ready for the motion?
Yes, please.
Is there a committee member that would like to make the following motion? I move to approve the long-term provider 5-year renewal application for Southwest Medical Center pending updated policies and procedures, sample evaluation, and offering agenda and bibliographies.
Giovanni Bonet, board member, and I make that motion.
Thank you, Giovanni.
This is Teresa Sanderson, committee member. I will second that.
Thank you, Teresa. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? No. Motion carries. Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Madam Chair, this is Carol Moreland. And I just want to give you a friendly reminder that you have about 15 minutes left because we have APRN committee that starts at 2 and we can only do one Zoom at a time. So I don't know if that's going to change anything for you, but I just wanted to remind you about that.
We may need to table some items. Charles, do you have any updates for us on KDHE?
Yes. I was looking at KAR 60-9-107L2. And it says, if a provider does not continue to meet the criteria for current approval established by regulation, or if there is a material misrepresentation of any fact with the information submitted to the board by an approved provider, approval may be withdrawn or conditions relating to the providership may be applied by the board after giving the approved provider notice and an opportunity to be heard. So when you sent your summary proceeding order, that was their notice and their opportunity. So
okay.
I think they need to apply as a new provider if you're going to follow the statutes, and they just have to submit all the material that a new provider would have to submit.
And so that is what they've done here today, but
Okay.
we would like to go back and collect the fees from the delinquencies,
Mm-hmm.
as well as then put them in good standing for moving forward and then pay the new providership.
Okay. Well, it does say conditions relating to the providership may be applied by the board after giving the provider notice and opportunity to be heard. So
So I'm kind of going off of statements from Melanie, Karen, I think, Giovanni, Teresa, you made some comments too, I believe. So if, is there a motion that you'd like to make?
Madam Chair, this is Chelsea. Would you like me to offer up some language perhaps for a motion? I can certainly do that. And then also, is there a date that you would like to put in the motion to have those delinquent fees paid by?
I'll throw out 30 days. I don't know if that's reasonable.
I know with the state system, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. I don't know if that would give them plenty.
60 days, maybe 180 days.
I probably wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, 90, I think, would be sufficient.
90?
So perhaps we could say, I don't think it's quite 90, but if I were to put May 31st, that would allow me to bring an update then to the committee by our June meetings.
That'd be great.
So the language I might suggest in Michelle for that motion is that I move to approve the initial long-term provider application for KDHE pending receipt of $150 in delinquent annual fees by May 31st, 2022.
Okay. Are we ready for a motion or?
Yes, please.
Okay. Is there a committee member that would like to make the following motion? I move to approve the initial long-term provider application for Kansas Department of Health and Environment pending receipt of $150 in delinquent annual fees by May 31st, 2022.
This is Melanie Burnett, committee member, and I so move.
Thank you, Melanie. Is there a second?
Giovanni Bonet, board member, I'll second that.
Thank you, Giovanni. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed? No. Motion carries. Okay, Chelsea, is there anything that is pressing that you would like to not be tabled that you would like us to address immediately? Since our time is limited.
Of the remaining providers, one that I have heard frequently asking on updates would be Wesley Medical Center. But I don't know if any of the remainings are necessarily pressing. I've not heard specifically.
Okay, let's jump to Wesley. And it was on my list to review, and I did not catch the on-site packet until the meeting started. So that's on me. I did glance.
I'm the same. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm the same.
Well, and I did glance through it, and it appeared to me to have some gaps in it. I did not find the certificate, but it was, I mean, I was in this meeting thumbing through quickly, so.
And I apologize. I didn't catch it either, and I haven't looked very thorough through it.
I don't see a certificate in there.
And I'm wondering, Madam Chair, this is Chelsea. I'm looking through my email. I'm wondering if it was omitted from the packet because she did provide that to me. It's a mail merge form, so I'm wondering if when we printed this for the on-site, it was omitted because of its formatting coming across kind of wonky. But I do have that in hand. I realize that's not available for you to review at this time. They are renewing their application, so it is the same certificate of attendance that they have been using.
Okay. When does their, when do they expire?
All of the remaining expire at the end of, I believe, March and April. I would have to look specifically at them. Let me see if I can pull that up, actually.
Would it be feasible for us to offer an extension until June for that list so that we could get their full documentation and then be more prepared to approve their next renewal?
Sure. And so would you like to do that extension for Washburn, Wesley, and then Wichita State University?
Yes, if that's okay with the board, that would be, that's kind of what I would recommend at this point.
Washburn has all their stuff here though. But if we need to wait, we can.
Okay. Who else reviewed Washburn?
This is Teresa Sanderson. I did.
Okay. And you were comfortable as well, Teresa?
Yes. The one thing on Washburn, and this is something I've seen just on the KSBN website. If we could look at just quickly, page 301, the bottom of Washburn's announcement, it has the statement that they're an approved provider, and the statement is appropriate except for it reads contact hours applicable for RN, LPN, or LMHT relicensure. And I believe that verbiage has been updated to say RN or APRN, RN, and LPN. Is that correct? But on the website where the application happens, it's written that way. So I just wanted to kind of bring that to the board's attention.
Chelsea, any comments?
I don't have any from Washburn, no.
Okay. Michelle, you want to, if there's a motion for Washburn?
For the motion, do we need to add the updated language on, is it the website or a brochure?
It's actually where I've found the things not matching, and I don't want to take up a lot of time here. I can send an email about this if necessary, but on the actual renewal page, web page that people go to submit an application that has the step-by-step directions and the statutes and all of that, it continues to read that it's RN, LPN, and LMHT relicensure. Whereas if you look at the Nurse Practice Act, it's updated to APRN, RN, and LPN. And so that there's incongruency there. That's my bigger concern than them having it incorrect on their flyer. So I'm very comfortable approving their renewal.
Maybe we approve it and ask them to update their statement. Chelsea, can you identify how to?
Yeah, I would just, Michelle, the motion just add at the end, pending updated flyer. And then I'll reach out to them and ask them to update that language to match, to indicate, to remove the LMHD.
Okay. Is there a committee member that would like to make the following motion? I move to approve the long-term provider 5-year renewal application for Washburn University pending updated language on the flyer.
This is Melanie Burnett. Oh,
Sorry. This is Karen, committee member. I so move. And good catch, Teresa, on that. Sorry.
Karen, is there a second?
this is Melanie Burnett, committee member, and I'll second.
Great. Thank you very much. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed? No. Okay, motion carries. So I would propose that we give an extension through June 30th for Wesley and WSU, and table their approval until our next meeting.
Yes. Madam Chair, this is Chelsea. I will go ahead and add those under unfinished business to the next agenda, as
Okay.
well as the remaining initial long-term applications.
Okay. That sounds great. And then can we also do our 5-year legislative review at our next meeting, as well add those two to our list that we review next meeting?
Yes, I will have that on the agenda for June.
Okay. So that kind of takes care, do we may need a motion to support approving Wesley and WSU through the end of June for an extension?
Yes, I would. Michelle, go ahead and write a motion, please. That would just say, I move to extend the providership for Wesley Medical Center and Wichita State University through June 30th, 2022.
Is there a committee member that would like to make the following motion? I move to extend the providership for Wesley Medical Center and Wichita State University through June 30th, 2022.
This is Teresa Sanderson, committee member, and I so move.
Thank you, Teresa. Is there a second?
This is Lori Owen, board member. I'll second.
Thank you, Lori. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Any opposed? No. Motion carries. Okay, so in light of that, and then tabling our 3 new ones for next meeting, we've kind of covered some of our agenda items for our next meeting. Anything else anyone wants to add?
Nope.
All right, well, thank you very much for tolerating our expedient end of this meeting, and I appreciate everyone's attention, and we will look forward to seeing you all in June.